Hello, welcome to the FPL video. My name is Mo, and today we're going to be going through the wildcard plan / guide / your strategy thoughts around what you're going to be doing if you activate or don't activate your wildcard in this international break of 2 weeks between Game Week 3 and Game Week 4. So, there's a bit of a break now, so the thought process of all FPL managers at the moment is thinking around wildcard potentially. The transfer window ends as well in this window as well, so we'll be able to get an understanding of, what the teams are going to be kind of restructuring towards, what might be a new potential strategy, how it might impact your team that you have currently, and how you want it to look in Game Week 4. So we'll go through all of that. Why is it so important and why is it so popular during this period? So someone like myself, who kind of, when we originally looked at the whole fixtures and the season started, my kind of immediate reaction was, okay, Game Week 6 or 7, or maybe 8, I'll see a few fixture swings, so that's when I potentially will play a wild card. However, some of the signings in this window have been kind of out of the ordinary. So, for example, Ronaldo, Lukaku to Chelsea and United, respectively. So we've got kind of a flavour of how this season looks and who's done well, who hasn't done well. So we'll discuss all of that through for you, and we'll kind of look at, what kind of triggers it off. So there are 6 points that I'm going to highlight, and we're going to go through all those points one by one to kind of get an understanding of, A, is that a reason kind of valid enough for you to play it? Or is that, not valid enough for you to kind of do it just yet, or kind of like have a long-term plan where you can get to eventually that squad that you want to, but not taking your wildcard hit or any hits in the meanwhile if you have kind of like held on to your 2 free transfers. So we'll go through all that, but before we do, if you haven't subscribed yet and liked this video, hit that like button and subscribe to FPL Inklink, help us grow, and let me know what your thoughts are. So the 6 points that we thought we were going to discuss in this wildcard plan / guide is going to be, the first one is patience. So patience is the biggest kind of like, challenge that you face in FPL generally. So, it might be a case where you kind of go for certain players that you think they're going to reward you. So for i.e. premiums, so Salah, for example, Bruno Fernandes, Kevin De Bruyne. Up front, you have Lukaku, Jamie Vardy. In defence, you have players like Robertson and Trent Alexander-Arnold. And in goalkeeping as well, some people play premium goalkeepers, so Alisson or Edison, or Mendy as well, who's priced at 6 mil equally. So there's always that dilemma that, you kind of put all your faith in these kind of players, and you kind of like think, these are my eggs that are going to be in this basket, and this is what's kind of allowing my team to function. For example, Kane as well. So Kane, we shouldn't really discard as well. He's kind of come back in the mix now, considering he's not moving to Manchester City at present on time of this recording, because the transfer window is still open, guys. Anything can happen. So I'm saying this based on, what the information is so far. So there are players that, you kind of make your strategies around. Now, there is, the odd occasion where they may not fire. They might have a blank game week. So, i.e., Bruno Fernandes for me this week against Wolves got me 4 points only, whereas Salah got 10 points. So if I had a captaincy band on him, my team score overall would have been a lot higher than 55, which I got this week. So the kind of patience part is, you've made this plan, 3 game weeks have gone. Are you kind of sticking to the same virtues? So, for example, for myself, I went for the 5-3-2. Am I patient enough to keep this going? Am I thinking of, let's move away from here. Let's potentially look at alternative formations, 4-4-2, 3-4-3, or maybe even 4-3-3. So there's other alternative we can look at, 3-5-2 as well. So those are the kind of thought process that's going through my head at the moment. And, have I run out with patience with certain players? So Salah's blanked 2 out of 3 game weeks this week already. He didn't really have a good finish to the end of the season last season. There's Ronaldo coming in now. So my patience with him pretty much is running out at the moment. So there are thought processes around that. So first thing is patience. Is it more than one player? Is it just the one player? Are the players that, you brought in to kind of make the squad complete, i.e., not the so premium players. So, for example, if you have like a 6.5, like a Bundia or a Dele Alli, for example, not to say they haven't performed, it's just an example. So let's not use those, as they're not a great example. Let's say someone who hasn't played that well so far. It's like a Harvey Barnes. So if you've got Harvey Barnes in your team, you think, he's not really giving me the returns I'm looking for in the first 3 game weeks. I want to restructure my squad. I run out of patience with X, Y, Z, and I want to kind of makeshift my team. But then you kind of like take a step back and think, do I need to activate my wildcard immediately? Can I hold on to that for later? Do this move this week, use my free transfers, and eventually, maybe not this game week, but in a couple of game weeks' time, I can get to that same position. That might be possible. It might not be possible. So that's something that you guys can bear in mind. So one thing I always advise is make your wildcard plan or your kind of squad that you're looking for immediately. Have a look at how many transfers there are. So for example, you might have, let's say, 1 free transfer and you make 6. So you have 5 transfer hits you're going to take, which is 20 points. In that situation, if you want to have it immediately in game week 4, then obviously pressing that wildcard button will be most kind of like, sensible thing to do. What wouldn't be sensible in this situation is for you to click transfers, keep your wild card, take a 20-point hit, and play that later on. The best idea for that would be either to play the wild card or make a couple of transfers week by week and eventually get there. But obviously the concerns with that is price rises and other alternative measures that can come into it as well. So injuries, for example, as well. So that's something we need to factor in into our overall plan. So that's the first thing, which is patience. Have you run out of it? Is it time to move on? Is it time to scrap the original idea and move on to plan B? That is something which will kind of play a major kind of decision, kind of like an impact on your decision on whether you want to or not activate your wild card. Number 2 is injuries. So for example, there may be some players that have kind of like come into your squad that are injured now. They may be out for a bit of time or some period. So for example, at the moment, there's a bit of uncertainty around Dominic Calvert-Lewin. He's kind of pulled out the England squad as well. I think he should be fit in 2 weeks back for Everton. Firmino went off with a hamstring injury. We're not kind of sure how kind of like, soon he'll be back. So there are players who are picking up niggles. International break, some players can get injured on the international break. We've had that in the past where certain players in your team have gone away for an international game for their national duty and they've come back or they've got injured in the process and they're out for a while. So that's another thing to bear in mind as well. So injuries can actually make you think, if it's one of your premium players especially. So let's say, for example, Bruno Fernandes went off for Portugal, got injured. And if you had to restructure your team and you wanted to get in, but sometimes if you have a player of that premium quality or that price, you can actually just do a like-for-like swap. So Bruno Fernandes at 12 mil can be actually downgraded to someone like, not downgraded, you can go to Mane, for example, for another 12 mil, it's the same price, or you can look at like Son and, use those additional funds elsewhere. So that is a potential opportunity as well. But injuries is a second factor which may kind of convince you to hit that activate button for the wild card itself. At number 3, how many transfers are you looking to do? So kind of ties in with the patience part. Is it 1? Is it 2? Is it multiple? Or are you just going to rip your whole squad and restructure it fully? So again, if you're going to make that immediate move and you want immediate results, then obviously the number of transfers you're going to make, it's going to be worthwhile you playing that wild card. So sometimes it might not be worthwhile waiting that many weeks because by the time you get there, the player you get in finally might have a fixture swing and you might miss out on the good fixtures. So that's something worth considering as well. Number 4 is fixture swing. So the reason why originally when I mentioned game week 7 and 8 was where I was looking at originally from swings as well. So Chelsea, for example, have some really good fixtures around that period. However, Manchester United fixtures take a swing to more difficulty. So my kind of thought process was around, kind of getting more players from Chelsea and maximising 3 defenders from there. So someone like a Shaw can come out. We can bring in Rudiger, for example, or a Reece James, or potentially even like a Marcus Alonso if he's getting those regular minutes, right? So you've got these players to bring in. Havertz, for example, up front, or you can look at Mason Mount. So there are options available. Leeds now will start getting better fixtures in game week 7, so maybe doubling or tripling up on them might be a good idea. And you can avoid specific teams who have a more difficult run in during that period. So that's something that, I've kind of thought in my mind as well. So fixture swings was huge. But again, if there's certain transfers that do take place, which kind of like convince you, no, I need to do it now, I can deal with those fixture swings when we get to game week 8. I'll have 1 or 2 transfers then to kind of like, rotate and kind of make my squad there or then. That is something worth considering as well. So at the moment, we've never really been in previous seasons in a position where, premiums are something that we have to really think about. It's usually set and forget. Because you're going to go for either 2 or 3 premiums, you can let them be, and you can kind of work your squad around it. But this season, the luxury we have in terms of the number of premiums on the pitch. So you've got Trent, you've got Robertson, you've got Salah, Fernandes, Ronaldo, Lukaku, Bruno, Kevin De Bruyne when he comes back, Jamie Vardy. So there are extremely high number of great. Son as well, he's a premium for me. Great premiums available that, it might be worthwhile sometimes for us rotating more frequently this year on premiums than we have done in the past years. So that's something that can actually make a huge bearing on your decision. So fixture swings for me is something which is huge. Despite, even if I decide to play my wild card, which I'm pretty much most likely to do so, I haven't done it thus far, so yeah. Because at the time of this recording, Ronaldo hasn't become active on the game itself. I really want to see what his price is. So the expectation is anywhere between 12.5 and 13 mil. He could come in at 12, so it could be just a like-for-like replacement for Bruno. But however, for me, I kind of believe it is probably going to be 12.5. But we'll have to wait and see for that. So that might trigger your thought process. Will you be rotating your kind of premiums based on their fixtures? But the kind of risk with that is, with premiums, it's not to say that, for example, Lukaku in a couple of weeks plays Spurs and Man City. It's not to say he's not going to score against them. You can't say Salah's not going to score against Manchester City. It's just the fixture swing, I think, sometimes might be overlooked or might be a bit too much considered, because we need to understand they're premiums for a reason. They can turn a game in a second. So, for example, Salah this week against Chelsea, if you look at him from a whole game perspective, he didn't really add much value to the game itself. However, he got a penalty, scored it, he's got 10 points overall, and that's 20 points if you captain him as well. So it shows that, despite being a difficult fixture, it doesn't mean that they'll not give you the returns. However, you got someone like a Fernandes who on paper looked like Wolves might be an easier fixture. Didn't work out at all itself. But then you look at Lukaku, who only got 2 points against Liverpool, and then you can turn around and say it's a difficult fixture. So it kind of works both ways, guys. Sometimes patience, again to point one, might pay you your virtue in the long run itself. Point number 5 is new signings. So we've discussed this already. So there are a phenomenal number of new signings. I would say out the world signings that have come through this transfer window into the Premier League. Ronaldo to be number 1, Lukaku back at Chelsea for number 2. potentially looking at, it's not confirmed as of yet when I'm making this video, potentially Lingard going back to West Ham. That could be a huge difference. Benrahma ownership, will that change? Will his minutes be affected? There might be some more players that might be coming in. So it plays a huge part as well. So new signings can play a major impact on certain decisions. Potentially, Everton are looking to sign Maitland-Niles from Arsenal on a loan deal, which can be kind of like a loan to buy offer at the end of the season. So we're looking at potential other right backs coming in there for Everton as well. So there have been some really good signings that have come in this season, and they've already started and they hit the ground running. So we need to just sit back and just understand what kind of positioning they're playing. Are they going to last that long? Are they going to play in that position? So that's going to play a huge part. So for example, Greenwood so far, yes, he scored goals in every single game. So 3 out of the 3 games he scored. But in the last 2 games, he's played on the kind of wing and he scored from there rather than being up front. So Martial was up front in the Southampton game, whereas he was on the wing, scores a goal. And in the game on this weekend against Wolves, he again moved to the wing, scores a phenomenal goal once Cavani was on. So it shows that he doesn't have to be up front for him to score. Maybe playing on the wing might be more kind of beneficial. And with Ronaldo coming in, he's probably going to be the out-and-out striker, and that's going to allow Greenwood to play in more of a kind of wing position where he's more comfortable, and it might give you that kind of return as well. So we'll have to wait and see. Alternatively, there could be injuries, which we've mentioned already. So Firmino being injured, Jota gets more game time, better games coming up, so he might be a good shout for a short term to have him in to kind of fill that gap as well. Tsimikas is a prime example at the start of the season, did well in the covering of the injuries of Robertson. Robertson's back now, but it was a good time to get him in for a couple of weeks, and he got you them clean sheet points and got you a return for an assist as well. So job well done. So new signings, we still have another transfer day left. Let them come through. Overall, I think the best thing would be is once all the signings are done, everyone's been added to the FPL game itself, it might be worthwhile adding them on to the game or your team itself as well. Last but not least, number 6 is form players / price rises. So form players actually lead to a rise in price. That could be due to ownership increase or general form as well. So at the moment in form right now, so a lot of people were going for the premium. So who's actually really in form? So start the season, essentials was a key phrase that was used by most FPL experts and people out there on the YouTube community, FPL community on YouTube and Twitter. So, there's a huge kind of like, emphasis on Salah, Fernandes, Kevin De Bruyne, Kane. But let's just break it down into 2 premiums. So Salah and Fernandes, Jota and Greenwood have done just as well at half the price. So there could be a thought process where you're going, do you know what, I might go premiums up front in terms of Lukaku and Ronaldo, and I might just play, Ferran Torres, who's playing in the striker's position at the moment. Obviously, minutes might be affected later on in the season with Kevin De Bruyne coming back and more rotation in terms of game weeks, number of games per games that take place in game week. So midweek competitions, it might affect their minutes. But what we do need to remember is that might be a better option in the long run. So you might have Greenwood, Jota or Ferran Torres, either way, at kind of 2 of the 3, for example. They might pay you more virtue in the long run. So that's something worth considering. Informed players might be more beneficial than kind of like the names itself. As I said, we are kind of blessed with more premiums this season. So maybe choosing the right mid-range players might play an overall impact on our kind of like finishing or game week points itself. So maybe studying informed players and studying what their fixtures are coming as well, basing it back onto another point that I mentioned earlier versus form, how that's kind of interlink and with the number of minutes they get, how that will impact them playing for your team in FPL and what they can bring as well. So those are the kind of 6 points that I've got in terms of FPL itself. What those points are that can actually trigger you to play these wildcard itself. So for me, I'm 99.99% certain on playing this wildcard. I'm literally just waiting for Ronaldo to be released, and I've kind of got a little bit of a thought process of which I'd like to follow. So I kind of went for the 5-3-2, as you guys can see, so that arrow formation. I'm tempted to kind of move away from that, so I could go down to maybe a 4-3-3. I could look to get in probably someone like a Damari Gray, a Ferran Torres, a Jota, dependent on Firmino's injury, even Greenwood, and I'll look to bring in Ronaldo. So when I brought Lukaku in, guys, I know he's got some good fixtures coming up from game week 7 onwards. Ronaldo was not in the pipeline to be in the Premier League, not even at Manchester United, but generally in the Premier League, so I had no idea that he was going to be part of it. Now, if someone said to me at the start of the transfer window, you're going to have a choice between Lukaku and Ronaldo, I think, maybe it might be my, kind of allegiance with Manchester United, but generally I would have gone for Ronaldo. Because Ronaldo's on penalties, I can assure you, everyone's talking about the debate about whether Bruno's going to keep penalties. Ronaldo takes penalties for his national squad. And I think Ollie will not be, asking him not to take penalties. He's an outright striker. His assists, he only got 3 last season, but he's got 20 plus goals. I think 29 goals, and he got 31 goals the season before. So the guy can score. He's going to be around the box. He's going to be finishing off. United have always had the issue with the finishers. They've always got the players who can get the ball to the 6-yard box or the 18-yard box, but there's no one to put it in the back of the net. And that might be the last jigsaw that Manchester United need to get to, maybe challenging for the title. They challenged last season, they fell short, but it might be a more kind of like closer challenge. That's why I might be tempted to go towards Ronaldo. He's not going to be benched. He's not going to be rotated. The guy will play week in, week out. People talk about his age. The guy's absolutely fit. He's fitter than most, teenagers in that league. So I don't think I have any concerns around that. I could be shaping up to a 3-4-3, so I could look to potentially get, Antonio and Calvert-Lewin along with Ronaldo, and then have 3 defenders and 4 midfielders with potential like Salah, Jota, Ferran Torres, Greenwood, for example, with Rafinha. I could look at that option as well. I might even look at Damari Gray at 5.5. He's a decent option. But for me to make all these changes, that might be 4 or 5 changes I need to make. And I've only got 1 free transfer this week. So I might be looking at maybe a 20, maybe 24 points hit. Some might say 28, depends on if I want to rip up the squad completely. So I'm not too sure exactly which direction I want to go right now. But one thing I'm pretty certain of is I won't be playing 5 defenders if I play my wild card. That's for sure. Am I looking to go Lukaku and Ronaldo up front? I'm considering it, but I can't take Salah out of my squad. And if I keep all 3 of them, I think I lose out value on other parts of my squad, which I'm not kind of really willing to do at the moment. The decision I have to make at the moment is I could go Trent and not go Jota, but if Firmino's injured, the way I've seen Jota play in the first 3 games, I'd rather have him in my squad. He's in good form, and he is someone that, playing along Salah and stuff, Liverpool will score goals, and they've got teams like Brentford and Watford in the next couple of game weeks. So potentially I can see some good returns coming there from the attacking perspective, but we'll have to wait and see. So that's my thoughts around the whole wildcard situation in terms of my team at the moment. Have I thought about not playing it? So obviously I said I'm not 100% sure that I'm playing it. So let's say if I don't play it, what transfers could I make? So if Ronaldo's available, literally I'll potentially could make 2 transfers. Fernandes I could drop out and bring in Ronaldo. That's an opportunity. Who would I go for in terms of Fernandes? Again, there's many other options that I can potentially choose from across the board. So I haven't really looked into it in much depth at the moment. In that case, I might even just look to downgrade Rafinha to Harrison, or maybe even Damari Gray, and bring in Fernandes and see Ronaldo, and see how Fernandes and Ronaldo play together. Again, there's a lot of thought process I'm looking at. It all depends upon the price of Ronaldo himself. So I've kind of backed Bamford all the way, but it might be a case where Calvert-Lewin and Antonio get the nod ahead. Yes, they've got some good fixtures coming ahead, but they've played so well. Like, not having them in my squad, and the high ownerships are killing me. 49-48% managers. I almost got Antonio in their squads. If he scores, my red arrow comes along a big way. So again, it's a lot of things which I'm considering in terms of is it form, is it fixtures, It's a lot to digest, guys, at the moment. So that's the wildcard front that we're looking at the moment. So at the moment, if I was to kind of say what I'm going for at the moment, it's potentially looking at 4-3-3. 3 attackers, maybe 1 premium, 2 mid-range. Midfield is probably going to be 1 premium Salah, 2 mid-range midfielders. And then defence is probably just going to be all mid-range. So at the moment, I'm looking for like a spread of funds and a strong bench, where basically in a sense it's not strong in the sense that I'm spending 6-7 million on the bench, but to an extent that, you know, if I do in the long run have a double game week, I can look to potentially play bench boost slash maybe even free hit. Not triple captain just yet. I'm going to wait for that maybe after January. But there's a lot of thought process that's going to go around at the moment. There are also some news around, you know, Bendia and Martinez playing for their national side Argentina. And not being available for the Chelsea game, so maybe Lukaku might be a better option as maybe even a captain. So there's a lot for me to take into consideration and think about, you know, what might be the best game. Is it even worth playing it in game week 4? Wait till game week 5. But that fixture of Newcastle at home for Manchester United is very tempting for Ronaldo, and that might just be the only factor that kind of pushes me over the edge and submits me to playing that wild card for my game week. So that's the kind of overall understanding around the wild card for beginners. Remember, guys, once you've hit that wild card, you can make as many transfers as you like. You won't be penalised in terms of kind of points, and you can make as many updates as you want before the deadline hits itself. But one thing I do always recommend, guys, is once you make your transfers, make sure you submit the captain on the right person and the vice captain on the right player as well. That will be very, very handy, because I've seen in the past that people make wild cards, take their eye off the captaincy, and then it kind of like goes to waste after all that thought, and it could go horribly wrong. So that's my kind of guide and kind of plans around wildcard. Let me know what your thoughts are. Hit the like button. Subscribe to FPL Inkling if you haven't already, and join the league. The league code is just below my screen camera, so you can join the FPL Inkling League as well. I hope you guys have a great day. Keep watching for some more content, and take care while I see you soon.